Browns owner to force QB plan against Kevin Stefanski's wishes as Shedeur Sanders trade talks start, insider. Preseason in Cleveland isn't about easing into the year. It's about sorting through another quarterback shuffle, and this time the stakes feel heavier. Just a week ago, Jimmy Haslam went on record to insist he didn't strong-arm his front office into taking Shedeur Sanders. If you would have told me Friday night driving home, y'all are going to pick Shedeur, I would have said, that's not happening, Haslam told reporters. In his words, it was GM Andrew Berry pulling the trigger. Yet the pick still landed like a curveball. Especially after the Browns had already spent a third-rounder on Dillon Gabriel and doubled down with veterans Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. That chaos isn't new. Since trading Baker Mayfield in 2022. Ahem, for a $230 million disaster. The Browns have rolled out 10 different starting quarterbacks. Joe Flacco sits tied for fifth on that list with 5 starts in 2023. He went 4-1 and led Cleveland to just its third playoff berth since returning to the league in 1999. We felt like it got to a point where he was probably mispriced relative to the draft, Berry explained, defending Sanders as a bargain day 3 steal. Mispriced or not, one thing's clear. The Browns now have a logjam under center and a fan base exhausted by constant resets. And while Haslam swears this one was Berry's call, history suggests the owner rarely stays in the passenger seat when it comes to quarterbacks. The patience may already be running thin inside the building. So, Browns owner wants answers, fans want gameplay, and Kevin Stefanski is caught in the middle, holding a deck of quarterbacks that feels more like a gamble than a plan. Former NFL QB Chris Sims captured that looming tug-of-war as he said, between the clamoring of the fans, people like you and me, and the owner himself, at some point they're all going to sit there and go, hey, let's see what one of these young guys got. The question isn't if that pressure will boil over. It's when. And Sims didn't stop there. He painted the scenario Stefanski might soon be forced into if 2024 turns south. If we get the type of Cleveland Browns year that I expect, where they're a below-average football team, not winning the AFC North, then it's really just about where it goes from there. That where seems to point toward Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel. 2 rookies who've already flashed both promise and pitfalls in limited action. Gabriel's arm pops, Sims insisted, explosive enough to jump off the screen despite his mistakes. Shedeur, on the other hand, still feels like a long-term investment, raw but magnetic in his debut. The Browns' front office may preach patience. Stefanski calls this an installation phase, emphasizing development and reps. But how long can you hide behind buzzwords when ownership is staring at the table for change? Kevin Stefanski facing a quarterback trade storm. Kevin Stefanski doesn't just have a quarterback room. He literally has a vault. 4 arms, each carrying a different price tag, stacked like poker chips waiting to be cashed. Mike Florio framed it perfectly. When you've got that many quarterbacks and you view your quarterbacks as assets, that's when the game shifts from football to finance. What if a team that nearly pulled the trigger on Shedeur Sanders in the 2nd or 3rd round suddenly sees his preseason flashes and says, wait a minute, we were wrong. And let's not pretend this is far-fetched. Florio spelled it out like a broker explaining the market. We get him for $144 this year. We flip him for a top 60 pick next year. That's buy low, sell high in its purest form. Shedeur's debut wasn't just a stat line. It was a stock spike. 2.2 million people tuned in, watching Deion's son carve Carolina for 2 touchdowns and a passer rating north of 113. Those numbers matter. They don't just sit on a box score. They creep into trade calls. But here's where the heart collides with the ledger. Sanders is grinding like a future starter. Early mornings, late nights, completing nearly 77% of his OTA throws. And he has even earned praise from LaShawn McCoy, who called him the best player at rookie minicamp. He's a 5th-round pick fighting like a first, a rookie playing like he belongs in prime time. And yet, Kevin Stefanski already admitted, we have 4 guys. That won't be the case come week 1. Which means someone's getting moved. The Browns will soon have to decide. The clock's ticking. They said the lake was calm, but the building hummed like a beehive. Morning crept through the glass of the team facility, turning the lobby trophies the color of coffee, and every footstep echoed with rumor. Somewhere on the 3rd floor, a phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Somewhere on the 2nd, a printer coughed out schedules nobody would follow. Somewhere below all of it, in the weight room, iron clanged to the rhythm of a franchise trying to decide who it wanted to be. The headline hit before breakfast. An insider, claiming the Browns' owner, was about to force a new quarterback plan over Kevin Stefanski's objections, and that Shedeur Sanders' name had slipped onto the trade wire like a ship quietly leaving harbor. For fans, it was a splash of cold water. For the people inside the building, it was a siren. Stefanski kept his face steady, the way you learn to when you've called plays in blizzards and in Septembers that felt like blizzards. He had a plan, and it had the clean geometry he liked. Sequences that built on each other, quarterbacks given jobs they could win and fail at honestly, a depth chart drawn like a blueprint. Owners prefer renovations with demolition. Coaches prefer renovations you can live in while the walls move. It's the old conflict of craft and spectacle. At 8:02, the elevator opened and the owner stepped out, smile tight as a visor. He spoke in phrases that fit in headlines. Windows. Urgency. The moment, there was talk of franchise momentum, and the fear of letting the season settle into the kind of middle that swallows careers. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. Money has a way of speaking in calm italics. They gathered in the war room that wasn't a war room anymore. Off-season magnets still clung to the board like old thoughts. The GM clicked a pen. The cap guy clicked a spreadsheet. Stefanski folded his arms and unfolded them. The owner laid out a future with the precision of a realtor. Here is the path, here is the cost, here is the view. It ended with 2 words that turned everyone into a punctuation mark. Shedeur. Available? The question hung in the recycled air. Trade talks. Not official, not on paper, but the kind of conversation that begins in a text message and grows teeth by lunchtime. Around the table, people imagined different versions of the same season. In the owner's version, a shiny certainty jogged out of the tunnel in prime time, flanked by fireworks and ratings. In Stefanski's version, growth happened like frost lifting. Slow, patient, honest, the way football really moves when you're not trying to make it dance for the cameras. Inside the locker room, the rumor moved faster than tape. Players caught it in the corners where whispers live. Shedeur tied his cleats a notch at a time, jaw tight but eyes easy, like a man who'd learned early that his last name was both a door and a lock. He met the stare of a veteran who'd played for 4 head coaches and 3 systems and understood that in the NFL, identity was a chess piece you rented by the week. Business.